NLC insists on indefinite strike, saying that they have given the federal government enough time to rectify whatever issue is that they have tabled before them. And today is going to be the tribunal in Lagos State, so you keep your fingers crossed, especially for those who be in Lagos State. Try and remain calm and very civil and just await what the court will say concerning the tribunal in Lagos State today. I am Sana Elisha Dasham, and I'll be doing this together with Rachel Tanzi. Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah.
How was the weekend?
It was fine. How was yours?
Mine was glorious. It was actually very, very great. I'm really
That's
happy
nice,
to be
Sarah.
here this morning. To our viewers, we're live on Facebook and on YouTube. You can do well to join us live there. Drop your comment, drop your contribution on any of the story that is of interest to you. And we'll quickly run through the paper, starting with this day newspaper.
On this day newspaper, articles 8 attacks Tinubu again, releases list of administrations, 10 big lies in 119 days. Knocks president on false claim of planned meeting with Biden, says fuel subsidy back despite government silence. You can start with the details on the front page and continue inside the paper on page 15. France to pull troops out of Niger following coup. You can find more details on page 5. A president will revamp Nigeria's economy, boost energy sector, says Ronnie, FLNG boss. You can find more details of his statement on page 34. Tinubu orders security to rescue abducted Gusau Varsity students. ACF condemns development. The big story on this day newspaper, NLC insists on indefinite strike, says federal government had enough time to resolve dispute. The writer under the story, business operators to government, labor, incessant industrial action bad for ailing economy, demarketing Nigeria. And then you can find more details of the story on the front page and continue on page 15. And then we have a picture story saying King's College Old Boys Annual Dinner, where we have from the left to right President King's College Old Boys Association Kasim Ibrahim, former Emir of Kano Sanusi Lamido, and we have the Minister of Works as a guest of honor David Umahi, and we have Chairman 2023 King's Week Planning Committee Olumide Apata at the KCOBA 2023 Annual Dinner in Lagos at the weekend. And that's all the news on this day newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Ascent newspaper, starting with a big story where we have Wike threatening France, Turkey, Canada, 18 others with land revocation in Abuja. The writer following that story, we have South Korea, Philippines, Tanzania also risk revocation. 189 underdeveloped plot owners get 3 months to start work. You can find detail of the story on the detail of the story inside the paper. Other stories here, we have federal government target 185.2 billion naira revenue from asset concession in 2023. Other stories on the paper, we have Ally dedicates tribunal victory to God and Benue people. You can find more of that story inside the paper. Also, we have Tinubu direct rescue of adopted female student at the Gusau Varsity, that in Zamfara State, where about 6 students have already been rescued. So the rest of the students that are there, the president is calling for rescue. Dangote wins brand award for good corporate performance. You can find that story in the paper. And also we are having Ekiti Sport Council boss under fire over athletics poor kitting. More of the story can be found in the paper. And the last story here is on 2024 Hajj. FCTA intending pilgrims to deposit 4.5 million naira, with detail found on page 7, and that's all on the Daily Ascent newspaper.
On First News, Lagos Guba Sanwo-Olu wrote Vivo Adediran no fate today as court delivers judgment on governor's victory. Wike gives 3 months grace to 189 plot owners in Abuja. Tinubu orders immediate rescue of abducted Zamfara Varsity female students. 33 killed in petrol warehouse fire at Seme border. You can find more details inside the paper. The big story, National Assembly, Tinubu set to clash over Cardoso and deputies as lawmakers fume over nominees. Resumption in office without confirmation. Stakeholders oppose nomination of new CBN governor. Question academic qualifications, experience and competence. Says Cardoso's nomination violates CBN Act. probe missing $15 billion, 200 billion naira of oil revenue, Serap tells the president. Ohaneze moves to end insecurity in Southeast, begs federal government for support. And the LEA seizes about Abuja-bound loads of laughing gas on highway. U.S. surgeon carried out world's second peak-to-human heart transplant. You can find more details inside the paper, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper, which is the next paper we will be looking at. Starting with a big story on Blueprint. Zamfara varsity kidnapped amid mounting pressure. Tinubu orders security agency to rescue student. Where we are having Nigeria need new strategies to combat terrorism. This is coming from the ACF. Time is of essence. Act now. Northern Coalition tells the federal government. We are on the trail of adopters, police assure. You can find more of that story on page 6. Other story from the Blueprints, we have fuel subsidy removal. After 21-day ultimatum, NLC meets on next line of action. You can do well to read more of that on page 5. NEF partners with the FCTA on security and master plan. Taraba to pay teachers, corps members 85,000 naira allowance. You can find our story inside the paper, and this is commendable coming from the government of Taraba State. Home and abroad, Tinubu's Nigeria is taking its rightful place. This is coming from Malagi. You can find that on page 32. Coming from Kano State, don't allow politicians throw not into chaos. Cleric urges Tinubu. Don't allow politicians throw not into chaos. Cleric urges Tinubu. You can find that on page 5. UBA roll out $6 billion SMEs financing solutions. Zamfara Governor Dauda ban illegal mining over insecurity, and this is commendable coming from the government over there. Also, the last story here, we have Zenith Bank, GTCO assets, 8 others rank in 72.723 billion naira as maintenance charges. You can find that on page 6. We have the picture story showing the firefighting trying to put out the fire that gutted mega plastic company in Lagos, with some sympathizers watching. So you can actually take a closer look at the paper and read or actually contribute to any of the story that is of interest to you.
On Daily Independent, we have Bakari saying Mohbad reaped reward of his actions while alive. Mark tags NAS to prioritize legislation to end controversial election, says 2023 election remains most contentious since 1999. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 6. The big story on the paper, new acting CBN governor deputy's assumption of office wrong. Lawyers, economists say it's patent illegality and presumptuous. You can start with the details on the front page and continue inside the paper. UBA rolls out $6 billion financing solutions for SMEs across Africa. Serap asked Tinubu to probe missing $15 billion, 200 billion naira of oil revenues. And on insecurity, Ohaneze advocates non-kinetic approach in Southeast. Tinubu asked security agencies to rescue abducted Zamfara students. And we have UNIZIC dismisses 2 lecturers, suspends 6 for fraud and extortion. You can find more details on page 29. Still on Daily Independent, this agreement trails extension of AOC for Nigeria Eagle Airlines as $13 million aircraft engine keep airline aground. And at the downside of the paper, judges wrongly accused of delaying justice. A statement coming from an appeal court judge. You can find more details of his statement on page 6, and that's all the news on Daily Independent.
On the Vanguard newspaper, we have Nnamdi Kanu's Anthony Bruce Fenn renews call for his release. You can see that story on page 8 and 13 of the Vanguard newspaper. Wike revoked 22 allocations, give 21 embassies, 168 others 3-month grace. More of that story can be found on page 3. And on the UN General Assembly, where we have Tinubu will revamp Nigeria's economy, boost energy sector. You can find more of that story on page 3. And still on Serap to Tinubu, probe missing $15 billion, 200 billion naira oil revenues. You can find that on page 4. The big story which seems to be taking most of the paper is still on the NLC battle, OPS over stand on planned nationwide strike, with some riders following, where we have the NLC alleges plot to sabotage struggle on palliative. Economy can afford nationwide strike, OPS insists. Urges the federal government, NLC, to avert industrial action by all means. Asks the federal government to demonstrate good faith in keeping promises. Pro-Labour CSO urges NLC to declare indefinite strike and pledge to support the NLC in fighting for workers and others. You can find more of that story on page 5, where we have the picture story showing us Adewale, the NECA Director General, Joe Ajero, that's the NLC President, and also Shegu, the Director General of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. So you can do well to look a closer look at the story and see how it relates and how you can contribute. And also on the issue of Nigeria Eagle, expert for the NCAA transfer of AOC to new owners. You can find more of that on page 26. And on the issue of kidnapping, Zamfara rescue remaining female varsity student, Tinubu orders security agency. You can find that on page 6. Manufacturers incur heavy losses as forest crisis, inflation bites harder. You can find on page 14. We still have other smaller column with other stories you can do well to read more detail about. But before we move forward, I think it's important, imperative, we talk about the issue of the kidnapping in Zamfara, because this is not a kidnap that took place just yesterday, Rachel. I think it's almost getting to 2 weeks now since these students were being kidnapped from the university. And just like I said earlier, I mean, from the report we've gotten from the number of students that were being kidnapped, only 6 of these girls have been rescued. And so this calls for proactive measures coming from every rector, VCs, and everybody that have a school under its custody to do something about this, because we know the way this kidnapping is. The moment you hear one kidnapping this part, it's just a matter of time. These people will have a way to do another kidnapping somewhere. This is just like, you know, bringing back fresh memory of when we had the issue of the kidnap of the Bethel Boys School in Kaduna State, the Greenfield in Kaduna State, and we know what parents went through to make sure that this word came back home. I clearly remember when the governor then said that they shouldn't pay any ransom to the kidnappers. But of course, parents that were concerned because reports were coming in, if something is not being done, these students would be killed. And I remember when they finally got to be brought back, parents were so excited. In fact, they were shouting in the government that you were not there when we were negotiating, trying to put together our resources to pay so we can have our children back with us. And here you're saying you want to take them away. We are not allowing you. And so these are some of the, will I say, step back that the government have taken over the years. And we need a better measure when it comes to the issue of kidnapping, because one thing I believe is something, it seems not to be right somewhere, because the number of students that always seems to be kidnapped, it blows your mind. You wonder, how did they get away with all of this? Sometimes when you check, it will be like we have a police station maybe just 3 kilometers away, we have a checkpoint maybe just 1 kilometer away, yet these things keep happening. So what really is the problem? And we've seen the president here pushing on and saying that the security agency needs to bring back the remaining students that were being kidnapped. We've seen that the government of Zamfara have taken it upon themselves to ban illegal mining, and I think this is another step that other states can also take, because we've seen over the years those who are always will I see piloting this illegal mining are always those who are not even indigenous of the state. They come from somewhere else, cause chaos, and then we see they use a kind of a disguised way to actually kidnap students. So we are hoping that something better will be done. This is a very sad story. We don't want to see it being repeated, because it takes us back to the Chibok girl, the Dabchi girls. Today we're yet to hear what's happening to Leah Sharibu. We still have some number of girls of the Chibok that are not yet back. So this bring back fresh memory. With these girls come back safe? Because mostly it's girls that are being, not even the men, even though over the years we've seen even the boys being kidnapped. But then regardless of which gender it is, I think it is important that our security agency are proactive. Let us say synergy between even the vigilante, state policing that are functioning in any state. Let us see everybody putting their hands together and see how can we protect the students, because when you get to talk to Nigerians out there, they will tell you when you're in school, your life is at risk. going for NYC, your life is at risk. So at what point in time will you be safe to actually use the Nigerian road, or even to be in school? We know this is a new session that just started in September, so we are hoping honestly that the government will actually listen to the voice of Nigerians, and the security agencies will do something better to attend to issues like this.
Stella, over the years, with what have been happening in Nigeria, starting all the way from Chibok girls, Dapchi girls, and down to all the varsities that we've seen, and even hospitals that patients have been abducted by unknown gunmen, this have been one thing, like there have been just one thing at our face as Nigerians, that the government have failed, you understand, to give us security at every level. The government cannot, as it is now in Nigeria, provide security to every school, in as much as it's their responsibility to make sure that everywhere is secured. But we have seen that we are struggling with having soldiers at the front line. We are having struggle with having soldiers protecting borders for states, road, and all of that, because we have seen the many havoc that have happened on the road. We are seeing that the government have failed on so many levels to give adequate security to the citizens of its states. Talk more of schools, where we've seen hospitals being at risk. Anywhere that has to do with a large number of people, we have seen that the government have come short in a way of providing security. Now, this is where I believe that schools need to step in. I know of schools within and around here that have stepped up their security. You can see that they are stepping up security in every entrance that the students come in and go out. And this is where I asked these university vice chancellors and all of that. Recently, we have seen a massive increase in tuition fees, and I'm not seeing massive increase in security for this school. This is where you have to wake up, you as the head, as the administration of a university, precisely because one thing I notice is that when it comes to hostels, they are always at the outskirts. Of course, you can't put residents in the middle of the school, so it has to be somewhere at the back of the school so that people can be able to live comfortably without the eye of everybody on them, as it is. So now, what are you doing as a school to make sure that these hostels are secured? As you're increasing the fees of, as you're increasing tuition, why are you not increasing security also? Well, what are you doing about, because we have federal government schools, we have state government schools, we're talking about varsities, all our colleges and our polytechnics. So at the state level, are you drawing the attention of the state governor to the fact that your school needs security? You look at the surrounding of your university, you look at the perimeters, you look at, okay, if are the hostels safe? Is it too much at the back that people can come in and take students? Is it, you look at all of these things, and then you don't have to wait for the government, in as much as nobody can take away the fact that the government should be able. But over the years, we have seen that the government have failed us on a lot of levels, and I know that they're working on that. It might take a while, but I believe that the Nigerian government is working on security day and night. But before they get to that level where they can be able to provide this maximum security for every school, every individual on our roads and everywhere, what are you doing as the administration of a school? You know where your school is situated at, you know where the hostel is, you know if there is a route that people can come in and escape and go with your students. What are you doing about that? And I believe that this is an urge for university administration. Let them sit down and think, how do we secure, as we are increasing tuition fee, are we including security into it, or we are just solely worried about running school affairs, and then students are worried about their life? Then in the end, there won't be a win in that school, because when students are being abducted, others are afraid. People might decide not to come to school. People might not be focused in school. So these are all things that needs to be balanced in our tertiary universities. And then I hope that something is being done about that.
Honestly, we all hope that, Rachel. Well, I think that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On leadership, tribunal verdict save Kano from chaos, Islamic clerics won. You can find more details on page 7. Tinubu orders rescue of abducted female varsity students. More details can be found on page 10. And we have a fact check. What did Yahaya Bello say about political ambition? And also a trend that said police asked Delta residents to surrender illegal arms. You can find both details of the stories on page 2. Rising inflation forces estate developers to renegotiate projects. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 7. Rumpus in civil service over new tenure system. The big story on leadership. Despite warning, states caught unprepared for flood. More details can be found on page 4. And then we have an infograph showing Benue, Niger designated and 37 centers as IDP camps. And we have Katsina, KB, Lagos, Plateau record 15 deaths. And also we see 33,983 Nigerians affected in 10 states. This is a statement coming from NEMA. So this is statistics on the 2023 flood disaster in Nigeria. UBA rolls out $6 billion financing solution for SMEs. NDLE intercepts Abuja-bound loads of laughing gas. Tribunal decides Sanwo-Olu's fate today. You can find more details on page 15, and that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, we have David Mark hit INEC hard on 2023 general election. Describes poll as most controversial in Nigeria's history. You can find more of that on page 4. The big story, Tinubu orders immediate rescue of adopted Zamfara female student. ACF demands rigging of security strategies over students kidnapping. Atiku accuses president of misleading Nigerians through propaganda. You can find that on page 28. And we have MAN, NACCIMA, NECA and others ask federal government to avert the NLC strike. Urges party to be honest with each other in negotiation. You can find that on page 28. Also, we have again Nnamdi Kanu's American lawyer demands immediate release. You can find that on page 27. Also, we have other smaller column. We also have a picture story here capturing people and vehicles trying to move past the flood in Lagos after the downpour yesterday. You can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On Nigerian Tribune, indefinite strike, NLC meets tomorrow. UBA partners AFCFTA to provide $6 billion financing solution for Africa's SMEs. You can find more details on page 7. The big story on the paper, abduction of Zamfara students. Security lapses must be investigated, coming from Amnesty International. The writer under the story, reject Nigeria's security architecture. ACF charges the federal government, expresses worry over well-planned, coordinated and executed attack. Tinubu orders rescue of students. Out of school, Nigeria needs over 300,000 new teachers, a report coming from TRCN. Wire accepted to serve under Tinubu. Statement coming from Fabemi. Affair charges him to lead crusade for new constitution. Nigeria has only 84 pediatric dentists to its 200 million population. This is a report coming from the NAPD president. You can find more details on page 21. Nigeria facing confidence crisis in forex market. CPPE tells new CBN governor, says banking system disconnected from investment community, calls for bank recapitalization. You can find more details on page 6. Over 70 plateau communities being controlled by bandits, Youth Association alleges. You can find more details on page 27, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Guardian newspaper, the big story, despite 2.8 trillion subsidy, power averages 3,000 megawatts in 10 years. We have a column telling us how it was from 2015 till date. When 2015 about 225 billion naira, and then down to presently right now it's about 57 billion naira. That is just January to June. And here we have 2.8 trillion naira electricity subsidy between 2015 and 2023. So you can take a closer look at how the subsidy have been for 2015 down till date. Still on the Guardian newspaper, Paris climate arrangement, Nigeria and hypocrisy of polluted countries. You can find more of that story on page 4. Private sector CSO kick as NLC decide on indefinite strike tomorrow. More of that can be found on page 6. And on the issue of oil theft, Navy arrests 8 vessels laden with diesel in Rivers State. More of that story can be found in the paper. The North in Tinubu's lofty debt servicing plan. You can find that editorial on page 2. Also, we have Nigeria has 500 undocumented citizens, 8,900 professional students in South Africa. That's the news you can find on page 3. All the story here we have say body lament, only 84 pediatric deaths for over 200 million Nigerians. You can find more of that also inside the paper, and that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, what Cardoso should do as CBN boss by financial expert. Owners of revoked 189 Abuja plots get 3 months relief. Give Nigeria new constitution, Afe Babalola urges AGF. African equities lead global stock market returns. The big story on the Nation newspaper, federal government steps up action against rising insecurity. President gives marching order. Ohaneze ACF raise dust over killings and kidnapping. 544.2 billion naira COVID-19 loan debtors put on the watch. Defaulters blocked from credit. Don't tamper with nation's power assets during strike, minister warns. The writer under the story, government plans stress tests to determine national grid capacity. And at the downside of the paper, on oil theft, GIF arrests 8 vessels laden with over 100,000 liters of diesel in Rivers State. You can find more details on page 31, and that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
All right, let's take this moment to, take our breath, let you chew the stories. And when we come back, we'll open the phone lines. We've been looking at quite a number of stories. Sanwo-Olu knowing his fate today. Also, we have the issue of flood that is affecting quite a number of states. And also, we are having, according to the Teachers Association, that over 300,000 teachers are needed because of the out-of-school children. So, when we come back from the break, we'll open the phone lines and hear what your own takes are concerning all of the stories, ranging from insecurity, education, and many other stories on the paper. Please stay tuned with us.
Hello viewers, my name is Amaka Ocheke. We anchor the program, The Living Room, right here on Equa TV International.
You are welcome to watch us every Monday.
The Living Room is a very interesting family program where we discuss everything you want to know about family.
Talk about our children's mental health.
Keep watching. Our program is always here, 5:30 every Monday. We want you to ask questions. We want you to phone in and drop topics that you want us to talk about, even on our media handle on Facebook. We're there. So keep watching, keep listening. The Living Room.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, the program is The Dailies. We've been looking at quite a number of stories ranging on the paper, from the issue of kidnapping Zamfara, and then looking at the measure the government have taken there by banning illegal mining. Also, we're seeing even down to politics. Sanwo-Olu is meant to know his fate today, as they will be going to the tribunal to know what will be the outcome of the election that took place in March. Also, we're having the issue of flooding in the paper, where we've seen it have affected quite a number of states. So quite a number of stories are actually on the paper today. NLC also, maybe going on strike. Who knows, based on their meeting for tomorrow. So our fingers are crossed. We'd love to hear what your take is about any of the story. The number is displayed on your screen at this moment. Please do remember to turn down the volume of your TV set. It is important so we can hear you clearly, and other viewers at home can also hear you clearly. Let's remember to be civil with our language, and then try to summarize your point in a minute so other callers can and also have a room to call in and also air their view. I still have Rachel Tenzi with me. Thanks you so much.
You're welcome, Sally.
All right, let's quickly go through the next paper before the calls come in, where we will be looking at the Abuja Inquirer paper, where I'll be starting with a big story there, where we have on ground rent, CBN, police, IBB, golf club, top debtors list, with the writer saying Wike recovers 1.9 billion naira of 34 billion own, revokes additional 25 plots, and then 189 others get 3 months grace to build. You can find more detail of that story on the front page and continue on page 3. We will demolish, arrest violators of Abuja master plan coming from the development control. You can find that on page 5. Nigeria to attain 50% broadband penetration by December, target 70% by 2025. More detail of that story can be found inside the paper. Implantable device could enable injection-free control of diabetes. You can find that on page 13. Northeast, Northwest have 48% of out-of-school girls in Nigeria. A report coming from UNICEF. And Richard, this is not the first time we're seeing a report coming in. And I want to measure it together with the story we saw earlier on, talking about the number of teachers that are needed because of this out-of-school children that we're having. We saw how the president was very sad about the number of out-of-school children. And no wonder we saw about 25% has been pushed to actually aid to fund education in Nigeria. But just like we keep saying, or we have been saying and will continue saying, is the fact that beyond just the money being given or beyond this money being injected into education, we need to see more work being done, and that is talking about the number of teachers we're having, not just any teachers but qualitative teachers that have something to give the student. I remember there was a time, was it last year or so, we're seeing where the Nigerian government was looking into putting back history into the curriculum, because I mean history was taken. I was like, why should I know the history of another country and I don't even know my roots as, you know, as a Nigerian? And they were even looking at the environment. There are times you go around some of these schools, Rachel, and to beat your heart to see the buildings. Some of them are sitting on the ground. Some of them do not even have an enabling environment. Some of them don't even have, let's say, for instance, schools where you see they say it's free education, the uniform of the student are looking worn out, and then quite a number of things are not going right. And here we're seeing here, according to UNICEF, they are saying that the Northeast and Northwest is having about 48% of out-of-school girls. Now, we're now going down to gender based right now. Girls are mostly the ones that are out of school. Even though there was a time that it looked like when you send a girl to school, it's more like you're wasting your time. The girl child education was not really, encouraged. But over the year, we've seen that changing. But with this insecurity, kidnapping, and all of that, we're seeing that the girls are back home right now and they are no longer in school. So now this call for proactive measures coming from this state, the Northwest, the Northeast. What can they do to make sure that these students are back in school again? So that, because we see that you cannot talk about development without talking about education, because education happens to be the bedrock. It's more like you taking the heart out of the human being. The human being eventually will die, or when the heart stop beating. So that is what we are doing with education. We need to keep pumping as much resources that is needed. Beyond the money, we need quality teachers with there. But how do we get this teacher when the pay is not even encouraging for people to say, yes, I want to go into the teaching profession? Back then in school, you have a debate. Teachers are better than farmers, or teachers are better than doctors, and all of that. We all went through that. But right now, nobody wants to be a teacher, because you see the way your teachers are being treated. So you feel this is not a profession I want to go into. So I think this is where the Senate, the reps, and everybody needs to take a closer look into. If it means they should have a fresh hearing on this particular issue, I think it's very important they should have a bill like that in their house, so we can actually tackle this issue of out-of-school children, looking at the funding there, and also the teachers that are needed to actually teach these words there.
Stella, since last week we started seeing the statistics of what it will take for us to get these millions of out-of-school students to be in school. And then we saw that we need over 20,000 schools and over 100 plus, getting to 190,000 classrooms for us to be able to have millions out. And then now we're also seeing the statistics that are saying we need over 300,000 teachers. Now the question is, having these out there, is the government willing to do the work? Because Do we have new schools springing up every day? Yes, we do. But then I believe that the unfortunate part about that, it might be a good thing, but it's unfortunate in a way that most of these schools are private schools. And whether we like it or not, they are not in the capacity to cater for these out-of-school students, because majority of these out-of-school students are mainly out because of poverty. It is due to the poverty rate of the region where they're coming, and then we also have a percentage that goes to insecurity. However, most of these out-of-school students are under they're under the umbrella, not really the umbrella, but they're also under the statistics of the 133 million people living in abject poverty, and it's from this number that we are getting the majority of these out-of-school students. So now the question is, are the government ready to employ 300,000 teachers? Are they ready to build 20,000 schools? And if you do the math of having over 100,000, you divide it by 20,000, meaning each of these schools should be up to a standard of at least 5 classrooms. That's when we will be able, so it's not just building schools without classrooms, but these classrooms should be able to be enough to cover over 100,000 classrooms, and then be able to, when we start spreading these students around, we'll be able to have millions going out of school. So now with this solution out there, the problem is we are lacking schools, we are lacking teachers, we are lacking facilities, and now the government know that all we need are the facilities, the teachers, and of course pumping in the right resources alongside security. Are we ready? Is the government of Nigeria ready to do this work? Because we now know what it takes to reduce the number of out-of-school students drastically. So is the government of Nigeria ready and willing to start doing this work? We saw the Minister of Education saying that they are ready to pump in more and even over 25% into education. Are they ready to start building these schools that, given a short period of time, we can see that, you know what, the government of Nigeria have been able to provide 10,000 schools, have been able to employ 150,000 teachers, and are able to have this number of students and this number of classrooms. And then within a period of time, we can wake up and say, we once had 5 million, I'm just giving a number, we had 5 million out of school students, and today we can boast of having 2 million in school, and we are working on things that the 3 million are going back to school very soon. So it's all about doing the work, and I just truly hope that it's not just talk, that when the Ministry of Education is really ready to pump in the money they say they will through the minister, that we will truly see the dividend of what they are doing.
Honestly, you just said it right. And I believe, Rachel, these schools that we're talking about to be built, not all of them will be built from the scratch. Some of it have been demolished as a result of insecurity and all of that. So let's say for every year, if the government will take it upon itself to work together with the Ministry of Education, we have funding coming from abroad to actually help us to make sure that everybody is in school to get the basic that is needed. I think it will go to a long way to reduce, just like you said, the number of people out. All right, let's take a call. Hello, good morning. Okay.
Okay.
Talking about out of school children, that the rate that we have it in Nigeria. My opinion, you cannot go to school in an empty stomach. The problem we are having in Nigeria is that of poverty. Take care of Nigerian poverty level. Take care of the issue of poverty in Nigeria. You see more students going to school. When you are discussing the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have to take care of the basic needs, which is at the lowest level. Basic needs, clothing, feeding, and housing, before you think about other things like physiological needs. I think those are the things that our government are supposed to do first. Take care of Nigeria's poverty level. Know how more families are getting out of the poverty line. Then you now think of education. That is one about the NLC going on strike. I keep saying it. It appears in Nigeria that we have an insensitive government, where a union has gone on a warning strike. Government kept quiet. They gave ultimatum. Government kept quiet. they did not do anything until at this last minute where NLC is now declaring an indefinite strike. What do they think that they are going to do just within this period? Please, our government should be proactive. Our government should be proactive. It has been how many months since the removal of the subsidy? And nothing has been done. Even the issue of palliative that was promised, go to many states, go to many communities, nobody has seen anything. I will know, like people were saying that time, that it is going to go the way of that of COVID-19 palliative. That is what we are seeing playing out in many states. Our government should always learn to be proactive. Let them discuss with labor. Like the experts are saying that the indefinite strike will be so injurious to Nigerian economy at this period. Our government should not keep quiet. Let them meet with labor and iron out whatever it is that the agreement that they have had in this before, and then implement it so that this strike can be averted. Those are my humble contributions this morning. God bless ECWA and God bless the Republic of Nigeria.
Amen. Thank you so much, sir, for this insightful contribution. Really appreciate the call that came in, and he hit the right notes in the right places. And I hope that the relevant authorities are listening and they'll take measure. It is important. We cannot talk about education. People are hungry. So you only pay attention in class when you are full, Rachel. If you are hungry, you can't even pay attention in class. So we hope to see that. Well, I think that's all on the Abuja Inquirer newspaper.
On New Telegraph, Tier 1 banks grew asset by 35.87% to 74.95 trillion naira. This is the first half report of 2023. You can find details on page 3. Stamp duty revenue, not postage stamp. LIRS boss is making clarification concerning that. You can find more details on page 25. It's obvious federal government keeps subsidizing fuel. Statement coming from Atiku. Mark to 10th National Assembly set legislative agenda that will tackle National Assembly malice. You can find more details on page 2. Reps to enroll 14 million out-of-school children. In a statement coming from Nwala, how Indibu got it wrong with leadership. The big story on the paper, ACF laments Zamfara female students' abduction, says it's one too many, warns of effects on girl-child education, asks federal government to rejig security architecture, strategize on combating insecurity. Tinubu orders students rescue, says no justification for kidnap. You can find more details on page 3. Missing $15 billion, 200 billion naira oil revenue, stir up 6 perpetrators' persecution. And on Igbo Day, Ohaneze to announce non-kinetic solution to insecurity in the southeast. And on diphtheria, Bauchi record 34 deaths, 296 suspected cases. We have Kaduna epidemic wipes out 10 billion naira ginger farmland in 7 local government areas. You can find more details on page 4 and 25. Still on New Telegraph, while Supreme Court should have full complement of judges by lawyers concerned mount over judges' depletion at Apex Court, NBA's Pedal queries Edo CG over refusal to constitute election tribunal. And on Guba, polls Lagos tribunal to deliver judgment today. And then we have over 1,000 women pray for godly verdict. You can find more details on page 3 and 30. And at the downside of the paper, we have dimming lights at night may lower gestational diabetes risks. You can find more details of this study on page 27, and that's all the news on New Telegraph newspaper.
I don't know why this story caught me emotional, the issue of what happened in Kaduna to their ginger farm. We know that Kaduna State is one of the states, when it comes to ginger, they farm it well and they make money from it. It's quite sad. I hope that the Commissioner of Agriculture there and others will be able to check what really is the problem. Is there a time all of these epidemics come up? Because there was a time in Plateau State we had that on the Irish potatoes, and quite a lot of farmers lamented that they lose quite a number of money there. So we hope to see proactive when we see cash crops that certain states are actually making money. Let's be proactive, even though we cannot control certain things that happen at a time. But then maybe there are ways that more research can be done. Let us see what results such things.
That's where the problem is.
Yes, and then how can we prevent it from resurfacing again? There was a time even the I think think tomatoes, it also
We
got
had that,
affected.
yes.
And then when you go to buy tomatoes, you are planning to make to be ready to a family of 4 be ready to buy tomatoes of 1,000 naira. So this is how all of these things get to affect Nigerians eventually. So are they going to concentrate on the issue that right now fuel subsidy removal have affected people, and then or we're talking about how much they have lost here? So we really send our sympathy to them, and we hope that the government of Kaduna State will be able to do something so we don't have a reputation of such things happening again to people's plantation.
You know, Sele, when we refuse or we neglect to invest in the things that are important, we will witness such losses, because you made mention of research, and that's just it. And we are backward when it comes to our farming science or plant science. Well, I put it in a way, because before this epidemic comes, there's always a sign. Either due to the ending of harvest or planting the previous year, you could start having traces of some of these things that, you know what, it's just like with the flooding, with the weather forecast. We have people who will be able to say, you know what, next year the water level is going to go this high. It's the same thing when it comes to farming. There are people that are supposed to be in the forefront of research and be able to say this farming season, this or that sickness might affect this crop or that crop. But where we are lacking in all of that is then where we come to see ourselves facing this kind of losses that could have been averted but wasn't, because the right thing was not done. The research and the treatments and all of that were not being done, and then we now see ourselves losing millions because this ginger are even being exported. If it is for Kaduna State, that is how much they farm this thing, just as we had concerning tomato and then potatoes on the plateau. We've had such losses in the past. So I just hope that for farmers out there, it might cost you a lot, but it's better to invest in this kind of research and this kind of treatment than for you to have your plant, you spend millions, and then you're not able to come and reap what you have planted in the end of the day. So these are some of the things. It's not only when it comes to flooding that we should have a forecast, but even when it comes to farming, planting, and then harvest and all of that, it is very important.
Rachel, if you ask me, most of our farmers are not educated enough to know all of this thing. Now, this is the assignment of the government. What are you doing? I mean, I ask myself a question. We have people that are studying plant science, soil science in the university. So what really, how much has been injected into all these, you know, these studies, and then how much are they willing, how far, that's the word, how far is the government willing to go to make sure that you don't just come out after 4 years or 5 years of studying this, and then you cannot,
whereas there is work,
there's work to be done, and if not, we'll not be recording such things. So we hope to see more proactive measure, Rachel. Well, I think, let me take the next paper which we have, which is the Metrics newspaper, starting with Lagos government Act Shanty towns on Blue Rail corridor to live. You can find more of that story on the front page and also on page 3. Ohaneze president vows to lay down life to ensure peace and security in the southeast. More of that story can be found on page 9. And still, we have Zamfara varsity student abduction open old wounds. The writers say over 180 school children killed, 90 injured in 70 attacks in 8 years. This is a report you can find on the front page of the paper. Again, we have rescue abducted student Tinubu Lawan order security agency. Despite the huge investment in security, Nigerians still live in fear. Atiku lament. You can find all of that on page 2. We have Atiku's aide Shaibu accuses Tinubu's government of 10 big lies. You want to know what those lies are? You can do well to read it on page 9. 48% of out-of-school girls in Nigeria from the northeast and the northwest. A report coming from UNICEF we saw earlier on one of the papers. Oil measures to advance Nigeria energy sector with $55 billion investment. You can find that on page 17. We also have federal government yet to award Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. Federal government yet to award Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. Also, we have Wike issue fresh directives to 189 plot owners in Abuja. They want me to fight my predecessor, says Governor and all. You can find that inside the paper. We have a picture story also, cementing relationship for concrete. That is between the president of Dangote Group, Alhaji Dangote, and Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, during the minister's visit to Dangote on weekend. And that's how far we can go on the program. Thank you so much to our caller who called in and actually contributed greatly to the program. Thank you, Rachel, for always doing this with me. And also thank you to our crew members, our producer. Thank you to our viewers and our supporters for always doing this with us. Until we come in again, do have a blessed day ahead.